video I'm going to make is going to be showing, I'm going to be mounting these angle brackets. Now these have been since upgraded, and the new mounting holes are now down here, which is good, and these holes down the bottom have been drilled out so that you can put pins through for your sieves. So I'm just going to drill holes in my angle brackets down here for mounting, and then I can put my sieve on. And the way I go about that is I sit these on here. Just nipping everything up just past finger tight, just to hold it there. So I'm just trying to get a mark onto the angle so I know where to drill my hole. Now I'm not putting the top ones on, I don't need them on just yet. That way that's flush across the top, sorry, the bottom. Then I take a mark pen and I'm transferring through the side plate and onto the angle. Hold it as straight as I can, that way I can transfer the hole position. Yep. Then I can whip these off. And I've got my little black dots there that I can now punch. I've got a centre punch and a hammer, and I'm finding the black dot. This helps the drill bit locate and easier to drill your hole, for those of you that aren't familiar with a centre punch. Now I'm going to drill these out to, of my pins that I've got, 5mm. So I'm going to drill them out to 5.5, give it a little bit of clearance. Double check that. I always try and keep on a pair of safety glasses. Don't want to get some swarf in my eye. I'm using a battery drill. I do have a power drill, but yeah, we're in the shed, mate. That was my son, he just had to show me his picture. Very good picture. One hole. I'm going to step this up a notch. Now if you have a drill press, it'll be a lot easier. But it comes a little bit twice, as you can see. And what I like to do, just to keep it all nice and tidy, is use a countersink. It breaks the edge of the hole, so you're not left with any booze. I'm just thinking about that. I'm doing this. These holes are actually supposed to be clearance. Of course, these are supposed to be clearance holes. So the holes that I want to be 5.5 are actually these ones in here. So I'll put this back on like so, just to hold it together. And we'll try that again, shall we? Okay, so I've made a little mistake. These holes are clearance holes. These holes in here I want to be 5.5. So I'm going to get my drill. We'll drill these out to 5.5. I previously had these tapped because I was screwing my sieve in, but now I'm upgrading this to make it. We're going to slow this down a bit because it's stainless steel. Stainless steel's when you're drilling stainless steel, it needs a lot more pressure and a lot slower speed than mild steel. That creaky sound you can hear is because there's a thread in the hole already. Nice. Now we can drill my 5.5s. Clearance on 5, I'd say the reason I want clearance is because when this mounts on here, that hole doesn't always, because there's a little bit of clay on the bolts, that hole doesn't always line up perfectly. So having a bit of clearance on these mounting holes doesn't hurt because it's the 5.5s that are holding the sieve in place. So I reckon I'll go to about 8. And then I'm going to show you how I set my blade. Okay, I need to countersink those slightly. Metal out. Alright. Now yeah. So where we're up to is I've just set these on, put my M10 nuts back in there. Now we can fit all our sides. fit all our mounting brackets, sorry, with our M8s. If you're curious at what length these are M8 8mm bolts, and they are 20mm long. I don't use a flat or a spring washer on these bolts because I pull the shredder apart so often, because I like to pull it apart and check everything every now and again, and it's easier just to have it without all the washers and whatnot. I like to keep the washers, washer and a spring washer on the bearing, because I don't want those bolts coming loose. And those bolts, once they're done up, now that their bearing's in place, I don't need to move that again. So that's the bottom one in, finger tight. Now we'll do the top. So I'm just putting it in. I don't have spring washers on these nuts either. Same reason. And you're probably wondering whether I should check if my sieve now fits, which is what I'm wondering too. So we'll check. And in the previous video where I used the jig to align the bearings, also helped to keep it parallel to the cutting surfaces, which when you start shredding plastic you'll understand. You'll see. Okay, see if the sieve fits, eh? So I've made a couple of sieves that I've experimented with. This one's 5mm, the hole diameter is 5mm. I've also got one that is 8mm hole diameter, and one with 3. I found the 3 is just a little bit too narrow. The plastic tends to shred around for quite a while before it falls through, and it can heat up and cause a stoppage, so I don't use that one. So let's chuck this one in there, and we will go this way. Nice. And it fits and it goes round, which is what you want. So now we only need to position the shaft in this direction. So what I did at the start is, before I put the bearings on, is I took out the grub screws. That way you don't lose them, and they don't accidentally get jammed on the shaft and then start binding up. So what I found is, because our shaft, where is our shaft? Our shaft between this shoulder and this shoulder is 148mm, and once all the bolts are tightened up, the gap between our frame, between the inside faces, is 149mm. That leaves us 1mm of play between the outside of the outer blades. So what I've got here is 2 little straps. These came at work. They use it to strap the steel down when it arrives off the truck. and these happen to be 1/2 mil, 0.5 millimeters. So all I do here is I just rotate it till the blades are horizontal on one edge. I stick one in one side and one in the other side, and just push it against the shims there. Then I can get one of my grub screws and my Allen key. Rotate that a little bit so I can get it in there. Just applying a little bit of pressure against the side and just nipping that up. Take my shims out, and then that's all you're setting up. Now you can go around and tighten all your bolts, and that's my way of setting my blades in alignment, both this way and this way, so you can get a nice clean cut. Okay, now I'm going to tighten everything up and then get ready to mount it back to my frame. I like to have the anvils sitting on the bottom so that gravity is holding them kind of down a little bit when I tighten up my 16s on the side here. I'll get a socket, eh? Let's do it properly. And these ones I try not to do up too tight. I don't put too much tension on these ones. I find the anvils, if they're a little bit loose in there, it tends to work a bit better. These ones you can tension at any time though. But I find that's enough. You can see in here that is going to cut well. Now I can put my sieve in and mount it to the frame. Now that is the key side, so I try to put this is the outside. Put my little pins in via the outside. Make sure it's still quiet. And there we go. And I'll do another video for my frame and when I've got it running and then shooting.